So some of you might want to be using Photoshop, Illustrator, and some of you might just be okay with doing After Effects. I'm just going to show you a quick sort of example. If I'm just going to make, so in After Effects, you know, we've been working on see, make sure the frame rate is okay. It doesn't really matter, but a 1920 by 1080. So when doing assets, if I know the asset isn't gonna like fill the entire screen, but I might want it to be fairly big on screen, I would prefer to do something in Photoshop that I know isn't gonna be, especially in Photoshop really, because if you can't really scale something up from Photoshop. If you make something in Photoshop at 200 by 200 pixels and you scale it up to fit your 1920 by 1080 comp, it's gonna look like crap because the quality isn't there. So you always try and make stuff bigger and scale it down. That's gonna preserve quality. So for 1920 1080, I sort of think if you switch this to pixels, I kind of like 1000 by 1000 because it's gonna be nice and big when you import it, and it's not gonna be an issue if I scale stuff down because it's gonna preserve everything. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna do like a drawing tutorial for you here. I'm just gonna sort of show you that. I have this drawing here of a, as it says, it's a fat pug, and the way I would work if I was doing an asset is I would just sort of do down the opacity on this and then start either with a pen and then start tracing stuff, right, and then draw around and sketch it, and then I would do the line work. I'm not going to do this because it's going to take too long. I'm just going to show you a more effective way if you want to use just line work here. So I'm using the pen tool down here because I can literally just trace my drawing. So it's sort of like a, might have to put in a little point in here. So I'm using the Alt and the Shift buttons and the Control to sort of manipulate the different curves. You just have to try it to see. I don't think you're gonna remember which one is which. And then I would sort of trace this around to make the asset. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm getting a lot more clean lines now than I would if I was doing it by hand. But you might be a lot better at drawing than me, so you might not have that problem. At least I have that problem. So I try to sort of build in whatever shape. So this now is just a really a sort of path made by this pen. It doesn't really give you anything more than that. So you can right click and you can stroke path, and it's gonna make the stroke based on whatever setting you have in here. So that's 13 pixels, hardness is 0. So maybe a really hard brush, maybe the size is a bit too much, maybe take it down to like 7. I'm gonna try 7 first and see what happens. Shortcuts, I don't, let's see, stroke path. So you can choose to do it by pencil, but if you do it by brush, it's going to do it by the 7 pixels that I showed you. So that's already a bit too thick, maybe. So again, you have to go in here and change this down. 5, the pen tool, stroke path. You can also hit the simulate pressure, which is pretty cool because this would give you just like this straight line, but if I did it with simulated pressure on, then it's gonna give me some, for some reason not giving me anything. It's random. Simulate pressure. Might actually have to turn it on in the brush settings up here. See if that works. If not, that's a buggy bug. There you go. That was the mistake. There we go. And then now I can just delete the path, and this is the line work. And I would spend the time just using the pen tool to like, I wouldn't take everything in one big chunk. I would now like, maybe I would start on the eye, and then I would do this bit and this bit and this bit, and sort of build it all up, but keep it all in one layer, and then on top of the original artwork, so you don't sort of mess up that. And then you could export that from Photoshop. You can save it out as a Photoshop file, and you can import a Photoshop file in After Effects. That's no problem. You could also do it as a, so when it comes to, I would save it as, if I was doing it as an image, I would do it as a PNG, most likely, because they're not that big, but they're very good on quality. Also, if you don't want to bring in a white background on your file, you want it to be translucent, and you do a PNG, you actually get it as translucence, and you only get the layer. You do it as a JPEG, it's going to give you a white background. So PNG, or but just, you can keep it Photoshop, because After Effects is going to read it anyway, so that's not a really big issue. Other thing is Illustrator, which you can do a lot of cool stuff in. If you haven't tried it, it can seem a bit daunting, because it's a bit different from Photoshop. But that's all vector, so every single line you make, every pen stroke you do is vectorized, and you can scale it to infinity. It's never gonna lose quality. It's vector, so it doesn't, you can scale it down and up, it doesn't matter. So that's sort of a safer option. But then again, the software is different, so depending on what you know and sort of wanna work on, that's up to you. Just make sure it's set to pixels. I'm gonna do the same sort of size again. There we go. I might, oh, there we go. I'm just dragging and dropping that drawing. Control minus to make sure I get this actually, because the drawing is way bigger than the, yeah, so these paths are nice because it tells me that's in the center. I can move in. Holding down space when you get the hand tool, so you can sort of pan around. Cool things with Illustrator is that it has something called image trace that you can try out. It can work brilliantly, it could also not really work at all. But it's basically trying to interpret what's in the image and then trace that down and actually make it into vector art. So it's a very cool way of manipulating photos to make photos look like a drawn type of, or art type of artwork, I guess. To get the, so now this is actually vectorized, and if I expand this, it's gonna have a ton of paths here, but I can actually go in here and get rid of some of the stuff I don't want. But this is all now vectorized, and I can go in and change the position of things, and I can go in and just literally, you can go in and mess up everything and have to just start all over again. But what I would have to do here is that, because it's not like a clean image, it actually has, if I ungroup this, it's a bit simpler. I can delete parts of it, and you can sort of get rid of, maybe you want to keep the text, maybe, I don't know. But as you see, you sort of get your sketch in a vector form. Sort of cool. But it's a bit of cleanup, as you see. It's maybe saves you some time in drawing, but I don't know. It's but as I was saying, this is all vectorized now, so you can sort of just move the stuff around. If you move stuff around and you see this is left, what you can do is, if you wanted that arrow now, you could go in and group this as one element, and then you can actually take all of it, which is useful. And if you're wanting some sort of sketched look, then maybe you can get away with just scanning your hand-drawn stuff, or not scanning it in and then image tracing everything, and then obviously do the cleanup and everything. But you would get your actual sketch lines rather than trying to recreate them in Photoshop. But that's up to whatever you're trying to do. Obviously, I'm just gonna trying to show you the different methods of doing this. And you can save this, for instance. Let's do. There's two formats. So Illustrator AI, so that's an AI file, so you can open it again and just keep working on it. I prefer to use EPS. That's just to be honest. I have no idea why, because that's how I learned to do it. But all logos, everything I got from any company has always been APSs. I'm not really sure what it is. It's just not an actual Illustrator file you go in and create. It's just Illustrator's own format for an image, I guess. So I'm gonna save this in my folder and try and import it back into let's see, pug. Yes, all fine. See if we can get this in After Effects here. Yeah. So then half quality, full quality. There you go. All in. And then you can sort of start using it, I guess, for whatever you wanted to use it for. But now you see it sort of looks a bit crappy on a black background. But you get it in fairly light, 3 megabytes, okay size, I guess. And the last sort of thing I want to show you here is again with the shape layers, maybe like 40. I'm gonna lock this layer, and I'm gonna pretty much like the same method as doing it in Photoshop, but you could go in here with a shape layer as well, and you could get rid of that. See what I'm doing. I'm just gonna have it at red at the moment just to make sure I see everything. And the cool thing about this method, I think, is I try to do as much as I can in After Effects, just because it's After Effects, so it's not gonna we're not talking quality loss here anymore, because it's made in the software directly. So it's a very sort of tidy and nice way of getting everything to look the way you want it to look and to keep that quality all the way through. Let's see, I'm gonna just do it up here and then try and so say that I've traced that bit and I want to do more. What you could do here potentially is you could, now what's happening is I'm creating a new shape layer, which could be what you want to do. But what you can also always go back and choose doing is take this and Control X and Control C, Control V, I think you have to do maybe. We might have to go in and choose the line. Yeah, we do. Cut that out from there and paste it in there maybe. Yeah, there we go. So now you have shape 2 inside the layer, so we could call this eyeball left, for instance. And you get everything in one shape layer. You would have all your artwork be one layer here as well, just by copy pasting the paths directly in, which is better than having 15 shape layers here for one drawing. So just keep in mind that you can always go into the contents and just cut stuff out with Control X and paste them in one layer. Did it make sense? Yeah? Very good. So, let's see my cheat sheet here. Yeah. I was looking at, or it was one of, I can't remember if it was this class or the VFX guys were talking about like hand-drawn looking animation type of things, and I sort of decided I'm just gonna do a quick tutorial on that because there's several ways of doing it. I'm just gonna cover 2 ways of doing it. One is sort of the long one, one is a shortcut, the other one's not. But I sort of prefer the traditional way of doing it, and then I'm gonna do one that's sort of a bit faster, but that looks a bit fake. Yeah, I'm gonna move this over. No, actually no, I'm gonna do it all here. So I'm gonna make a 1982 1080, and let's see here. Just gonna do something random, I think. That doesn't take too long. What should I do? Any suggestions? Maybe something simple, like either a drawing or a word. Anyone?
Drawing.
Yeah, of what?
A guy in a suit.
A guy in a suit. Oh, it takes forever.
To me in a suit.
You in a suit. I'm gonna do your glasses. You have your glasses. You have your hat. Nice hat. You have a thing in your ear. You have your nose. No, your nose is not like that. It's like that. Whoa, that's great. That's done. I'm happy with that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make a new layer, and then I'm gonna turn down the opacity on this layer, and then I'm gonna sort of do the same drawing again, but intentionally I'm gonna do it a bit different. You could sort of try and make it fit with the other one, but you could also just mess it up a bit for the extra effect. And then I'm gonna make another layer. I'm gonna turn the opacity down on this again, and then I'm gonna draw it a third time. You can also draw this several other times depending on what you want, how much of an effect you want. It's very different. There we go. Let's be smiling. Okay, so turn off that layer. Make sure the opacity is full. No, I'm gonna save as. Come on, remember paths. Dun 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 dun. Call this 1. Yeah, I might just do it as a Photoshop because that's fine. Yeah, that's a long way of doing it. I could do it like this. I'm gonna save over the previous one. See what that gives me. Turn this off. import. I'm gonna take this in as a composition. So rather than footage, if I took merge layers here, it's gonna merge all the 3 layers together. I'm gonna have one drawing with 3 different drawings in it. So composition, and then it's called 1. I'm gonna go in here, and you can actually see you have your layers. I'm gonna get rid of the background, don't need that. So I'm gonna make this about 1 second long. No, it's crap. I can't use that shortcut. I keep forgetting, so I have to do this. Control Shift D, everybody, but it also gives you a paint tool in the recording software. So like 5 frames for layer 1, and then I'm gonna cut this there and do that about 5, and then do that about 5. I'm gonna go here, end it there. I'm gonna right click and do trim comp to work area, which basically means that it's gonna, this composition used to be all the way to 30 seconds. Now it's trimmed down to just the length of that. Go in, and you're not showing anything. Why are you not showing anything? Oh yeah, because there's no background that I just got rid of, and it's black lines. That's why. Well, we can do it out here. Do a solid, do a white one. There we go. So it's a bit difficult to see. So you could go in here and have a bigger comp, and then keep adding the layers 1, 2, 3, and then do 1, 2, 3 again, and like stair. I'm gonna make a set of stairs of layers here as well. I'm just gonna do it with compositions rather. So now I'm basically using the same composition again and again and again to fill up some time. And if I hit and here and hit space, you sort of get like a wiggly, hand-drawn looking kind of, I don't know. But it could be like a style choice for you if you wanna do this as a. It's like a cheat to get it to seem like you actually animated something, because well, you in traditional animation you would draw every drawing, so it's sort of the same, but it's also just a fake way of keeping stuff alive. So that's sort of the hard way. It's actually drawing the 3, 4 different layers. But we could potentially go in here and steal this layer for a moment and paste it in here. Turn everything else off. And see. Because this is just this artwork, just gonna move it to the center. Just for clarity's sake. So another way of doing stuff like this is you have something called roughen edges that I personally like a lot, that effect, because it's just sort of messes everything up a bit, and you can do the individual control of like how big the border should be, how sharp the edges are. I think the sharpness is like maximum here is 10, I believe. Yeah. And you can sort of, and obviously this being After Effects, you could animate this as a character popping onto screen or whatever. But let's see if we can get this to just show a bit better. Something like this, maybe 10. And yeah. So if I key the evolution here at 0, and I can key it here at, I don't know, just put 3 for some reason. I just hit play, then you would have to play with the settings here on the evolution, but you can also just fake that effect of just a still image being or moving. Make sense? You can also do this with if we get rid of the keys on the turbulent displays, just double check they're not there. We have turbulent displays as well that you could put on. It's funnier when you have a face to work with. So, sort of decrease the size here, I think. See the amount. Mess it up. And you can animate this. So you could sort of set a key there, and then move it here, and then just, I don't know, somewhere around there. And that would also give you some sort of effect of it being alive, I guess. So if anyone wants to do sort of hand-drawn looking stuff, then those are a few of the ways you can do that. Also gonna cover, let's see here. Yeah. Line animations is sort of a, if you wanna, there's a few ways you can do this. There's the old-fashioned way of doing masking. So let's actually do a solid here. Come on. 10. 5 then. Okay, so if this is your line, or if you had a line work or something from Photoshop or any other thing, you have the masking tools here. So I would make a mask around this, and I would go into the mask path and key it here, and then I would select these two at the edges and just move them back there. Actually, I'm gonna key that there, and then let's go to about, I don't know, 2 seconds. Try and grab the same two again, and then just do this. And you would sort of create, I'm just masking the edges now, so it's a very simple thing to do. But the hard thing is when you have like a line that's sort of intricate, especially if you have something, I don't know, like an ornament or something with a lot of like little detailed little lines that you wanted to paint on or make it seem like they're being painted on. The masking part would be difficult because you would sort of have to draw out the path of that curve, and it's sort of, I don't know, it's just not the most efficient way to do it. Pen tool, for instance, is, I think at least, is a bit better because you can make your line, I don't know, something like this. Nice line. And in here, if you go to the add and you do the trim paths, so we go into trim paths and we see the end. Hard to see this. Bigger stroke. Yeah, I would just key the end at 0, and then at 2 seconds, for instance, I'll do 100. And you would basically just draw the path for you. And it would work the same way if you went into, there's other effects that does the same thing. So I'm gonna go back to Illustrator here. I'm gonna use the brush thing here, and I'm just gonna actually, perfect. I'm just gonna draw that line. I'm gonna hit Control C. And if I go to here, I'm just gonna do a new solid as well. That line comes straight out with Control V from Illustrator. So it's now as you can see, if you go to M for mask, it's actually a mask. So if you change this to, see if, yeah, there you go. It's sort of, it keeps the line in, but this is now done on, doesn't keep the color because it's doing the color of the solid, so you would have to change the solid colors to sort of get a different color line, even though, because what it's taking from here is not the actual line. You would have to save that out as an EPS or an Adobe Illustrator. It's just taking a path. So these are now, in general, the masks here are just, you get rid of them. It's just a green solid, but you have the two masks on there. And there's some ways here, let's see if I can make this work. I think right on does it. I never, or yeah, pretty much ever do it this way, but I just know it works. I just have to see. Is it? No, it might actually be that one. Because these, let's see, brush, reveal, original. I think we can. Does that show up? Yeah. Okay. So this is sort of like a. If you're doing a bigger brush size, you could key this to sort of follow your. Whenever it's within close proximity of that line, it's gonna draw it. So that's sort of, I don't like that effect, but you can probably do something cool with it. I don't know if you spent the time. Scribble, I think does the similar thing. Start and end. Single mask, all masks it needs to be because it's got two inside edge. No, side. There you go. Take the width down. Yeah, so that gives you like a scribble line at the same time as, yeah, drawing this. There's some settings here. I never use it, so, but it's there. You can try it out. I don't know what I clicked now, but it's crashed. Yay! First crash of the year. Thank you. Clapped. Only me clapping. Does it make sense? It's sort of following-ish. Yeah. Oh, come on. The last thing I'm gonna cover, let's see, I'm just gonna open, I guess we could open any of the examples from previous weeks, because this scene is not, probably not been saved. No. That's why we save, everybody. Just, I can do the introduction thing from last. Yeah, and this has some animation on it. That's cool. Let's just do that. 30 seconds. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what kind of project you're doing. It's sort of the rendering settings are pretty much the same, and you have some criteria for what you're gonna be doing in this this course, or what sort of the settings. And there are settings 1920, 1080. Your comp settings 25 FPS. So sort of that's like your checklist when you start rendering. So if you go to composition, and whatever composition you have down here, if you have more, it's going to be the one that's sort of active. You could do it through Adobe Media Encoder. Some people prefer that, so that's sort of up to you. I'm going to show you the After Effects way. So it's basically composition and add to render queue. And it comes up here. And I like to go and check, so size is fine, frame rate's fine here. The rest of it is pretty much, you just don't need to worry for this assignment. Quality, make sure it's sort of set at best, full resolution. So size and frame rate is sort of what you're looking for. And also if you're start and end, so it says 29 seconds 24 I don't know, milliseconds, but if this like said 1 second and your comp is like 30, then you obviously need to go in and see what's wrong, because it's just going to render 1 second, and it might be you've adjusted this top line here all the way down, or the other one is set to like 1 second. It's only going to render that out. If you go into where it says lossless here, it's sort of where it gets important that you do the right thing. So format AVI is like fantastic quality wise. It's great, looks exactly like it does on screen, and it gives you a file that's about, I don't know, 12, 15, 20 gigs. So you would have to re-render that again because it's way too big. So just go down, choose QuickTime. So it says animation here on the format. That's also fine, it's good quality, but again, it's also very big. So into format options down here, and then choose H.264. Hit OK. So now we got the quality is set to 100. Here it says audio output auto, and that's fine. It should be set like that by default. I have encountered it being off, and then you don't get any sound. So just make sure, if you will have music and whatever soundtrack to your animation, so make sure that it's either like this or at least just set to on and not off. All fine. 48,000 16-bit. That's okay, and then you just specify where you want it to be. I'll choose desktop for this one, just to be yeah, I think, yeah, that's fine. Desktop. Yeah, and then click render. Shouldn't take very long. For some reason last week some people were rendering and it took like forever, so I don't know about the rest of the machines, but it shouldn't take very long to render something like this. 30 seconds of one, or basically 4 shape layers, but just shouldn't take long. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And it is on the other desktop. But yeah, here we go. So that looks good.